On the 30th of January 1962, at a girls' boarding school near the shore of Lake Victoria, one student began to laugh. Then she could not stop. Within days, dozens of girls were laughing too, and crying and collapsing. There was no joke, there was no virus, and it would not fully stop for 18 months. The place was Kashasha in Tanganyika, the East African nation we now call Tanzania. The school was a small mission-run boarding school for girls, most of them between 12 and 18 years old. An ordinary school in an ordinary week until the laughter arrived and refused to leave. It began with just 3 girls, a fit of laughter, then tears, then a kind of helpless agitation that no teacher could calm. At first it looked like simple mischief, the sort of thing a stern word would end. But the stern words did nothing at all, and the laughing spread from desk to desk like something catching. Within weeks, 95 of the school's 159 pupils had been seized by it. The attacks came and went, lasting anywhere from a few hours to 16 days. A girl would seem to recover, return to her class, and then dissolve all over again into laughter she simply could not command. And it is important to understand that this was not joy. The victims laughed, but they also wept and fainted and complained of pain and restlessness and broke out in rashes. Their bodies were in genuine distress. Whatever was happening to them was real and frightening and entirely beyond their control. By the middle of March, the staff gave up and closed the school, sending the girls home in the hope that distance and rest would break the spell. It was the most reasonable decision they could make. It was also the worst, because the girls did not leave the laughter behind them. They carried it home. Scattered back to their villages, they became carriers. In a village called Nshamba, more than 200 people, most of them young, were soon caught in the same helpless fits, over the course of more than a month. The thing was no longer trapped in a single schoolroom. It was loose in the region. In time, it reached still other schools and other villages. By the end, something like 14 schools had been forced to close, and roughly 1,000 people had been affected. A wave of uncontrollable laughter had rolled across a whole corner of East Africa, and nobody could say what it actually was. So the authorities did what any sensible person would. They went looking for a cause. Doctors were called in. They tested the food and the water. They checked the air for toxins, the buildings for contamination, the victims for any virus or poison that might explain it. They searched carefully for a physical culprit. And they found nothing. No germ, no toxin, no tainted well, no leaking chemical, no infection in the blood. Every physical explanation came back empty. The bodies were reacting, violently and unmistakably, to something that left no trace at all in any sample the doctors could take. Because the cause was not in the water, it was in the mind. What struck that school is now understood as mass psychogenic illness, sometimes called mass hysteria. The mind, under enough strain, can produce very real physical symptoms and then pass them from person to person through nothing but ordinary human contact. And this is the part that unsettles people most. The symptoms are not faked. The laughter, the fainting, the pain, all of it is genuinely experienced. The body truly reacts. It is not lying. It is doing exactly what a frightened, overloaded nervous system can do when it has been given nowhere else to go. So what was straining these particular girls? The timing is a powerful clue. Tanganyika had just won its independence only weeks earlier, after decades of colonial rule. Inside a strict mission school, these students now faced soaring expectations from teachers and families, a future suddenly heavy with pressure, and almost no permitted way to voice the strain. And notice how it traveled, not on the wind and not through the water, but along the lines of human closeness. It moved between friends, between classmates, between sisters, and down the very roads that led home. The illness spread through relationships. Connection itself was the contagion. Now hold this story up against every other file in this archive. There was no newspaper inventing a panic, no company selling a cure, no preacher, no prosecutor, no profiteer anywhere in sight. And yet the fear response spread anyway, faster than anyone could contain it. Nobody manufactured this one, it simply happened. Which is exactly why it matters so much. It proves the mechanism is real. The mind truly can make the body sick and truly can pass that sickness through a crowd. The salesmen and the demagogues in every other file did not invent this power. They only ever learned to reach in and pull the trigger on it. And we have seen its shape before, in the very first file of this archive. Strasbourg, 1518. A woman steps into the street and begins to dance, and cannot stop, and soon hundreds are dancing with her, some of them to their deaths. 4 centuries and a continent apart, the same human machinery running the very same way. For a long time, cases like this were waved away with a single dismissive word: hysteria. Aimed most often at women and girls, it was a way of not taking the suffering seriously, of filing real distress under weakness. The label was both scientifically wrong and extremely convenient for the people who preferred not to ask what was causing it. And it never stopped happening. Mass psychogenic illness has swept through factories, offices, and schools ever since. Whole rooms of people fainting or falling ill with no physical cause that anyone can find. It is not a relic of some superstitious past. It is a permanent feature of how human beings are wired together. But now the room is far bigger. The channel that once ran between desks and villages now runs through screens, connecting millions of people who have never met and never will. A feeling no longer needs to be in the same building as you in order to reach you. It only needs to be on the same feed. And feelings really do move that way. Studies of social networks have found that emotions themselves are contagious online, that dread and outrage and alarm can ripple through a network the way the laughter rippled through Kashasha. The vector has simply grown from a single schoolroom to an entire planet. Which leads to an uncomfortable truth this archive keeps circling back to. You are far more porous than you like to believe. What the people around you feel, you slowly begin to feel as well. The self is not a sealed room. It is a doorway, and the traffic runs in both directions, whether you notice it or not. As for the girls of Kashasha, the laughter eventually faded after about 18 months, as mysteriously as it had first come. The pressure slowly eased. The networks that had carried it began to reset. One by one, the bodies fell quiet, and the strangest epidemic of the century was simply quietly over. And there was no one to blame, no villain to name, no company to sue, no one who walked away any richer. Which is precisely why this file tells a truth the others work so hard to hide. Strip away every salesman and every liar, and the raw human capacity for contagious fear is still sitting there underneath, waiting. That is the thing to carry out of this archive. Fear, grief, panic, even laughter are not sealed inside one single skull. They are social, they are physical, and they move from body to body along the invisible wiring that connects us to everyone we know. Every manufactured panic we have examined was only ever possible because this real thing exists first. The witch hunters, the newspapermen, the sellers of pills, none of them invented human contagion. They found it already running underneath us, and they rented it, and they pointed it wherever the money happened to be. So the next time a wave of feeling sweeps through your feed and into your chest, pause on the oldest question this archive can teach you. Not only who profits, but something stranger and closer to home. Is this feeling actually mine, or did I simply catch it from someone else? A dancing plague, a witch trial, a radio hoax, a named and marketed fear, and a laughter that would not stop. Across 5 files, one lesson keeps rising to the surface. The human mind is not a private room. It never was, and it never will be. But laughter, in the end, is a gentle contagion. What happens when the thing that spreads through a town is not joy, but terror? When an entire community becomes convinced that a stranger is creeping through their windows at night with a canister of gas, and no such man is ever found. In 1944, the police hunted a phantom. The next file is the mad gasser. The archive stays open.